From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Welcome back, Jill.
Hey.
Remember Welcome Back, Cotter?
I never watched that. That may have been in the days we didn't have a TV.
That might have been, yeah. Did you have electricity?
Yes.
Well, how did you get your shows? Radio? Did you listen to radio programs like I Love Lucy and?
In 1980, that's when we started having like TV and things like that.
I think it's about time we got a TV too.
Yeah. Before then, we lived on the farm and we didn't have
entertainment. Period.
We had plenty of entertainment. We had an outhouse, a well. Like we didn't have the amenities most people have now.
So an outhouse and the well were your entertainment.
We had a herd of goats, chickens. I mean, we had a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot. And we have a guest speaker today.
Yeah, we sure do. I'd like to introduce my friend Bridget.
Hello, Jill.
Hello. And I love this woman. I've met her in recovery in Shreveport, and I've worked with her. I think that's how I got to know her. And I just love her.
Well, thank you. I love you too.
Bridget, let me real quick before you get started, I'm gonna tell you how this goes so that you don't get we don't want to interrupt you at all. We do very little talking. You know, if I might have a question that I think the listeners might have, you know, something about, you know, I don't know, maybe sometimes in our stories we change cities we live in, but we don't mention that because we don't think about it. So I might, something simple like that. It's nothing major. We're not going to ask you anything that's, you know, going to be something you don't want to answer. But we do no talking except for that and, you know, a few huh-hus and yes and all that stuff. But besides that, you won't hear from us. So take it away, Bridget V.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Bridget, and I am an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is March 16th of 2013. And that is pretty amazing because where I'm from, didn't know that was a possibility. I was born in Shreveport to 16-year-old Shirley and 18-year-old Gary. And, you know, I've heard of things when my mom was pregnant and stuff. So I think I came out of the womb saying, it's on, where's my beer? And, you know, in my family, drinking was just what you did, you know. Like I said, I am from Shreveport, but a lot of my family is from Spring Hill and, you know, down in the country and stuff. But there was a lot of drinking. And I can remember the first time I had a drink was 4 years old. And, you know, it was cute. Hey, look at her. Oh, it's so cute. She's drinking a beer. And of course, I liked action. At that young, I found out that I could be cute and get attention. But you know, I've had people ask, did you like it? Yes, I did. I remember being 4 years old and really liking it. And, you know, I would take sips here and there, but I didn't really start drinking until I was about 14 and started running away from home. And I was married and had a child by the time I was 16. And, of course, that didn't last, but I got with that boy that would beat everyone up for messing with me. I needed a protector, and little did I know that abuse would turn around on me. And so I got out of that situation, and, you know, it was just, I partied all the time. And drinking is a huge part of my story, but there are other substances I may mention, and I hope that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, just like I said, you know, been drinking, partied a lot. My big aspirations for life were to be a cocktail waitress in a bar. And, yeah, so that didn't last too long.
Where do you think that came from?
You know, I'm really not sure. But, you know, I was cutesy. And I was the Jaeger girl at, it was called Vertigo at the time.
Yeah, Club Vertigo.
Yes.
Oh,
And-
showing our age.
Oh yes. So, and then it was Country Cowboys or something like that. And then I went to work at Cowboys. But
yeah.
so yeah, that was when I was at Cowboys, the first time I was ever introduced to another substance. And you know, I knew all the Bossier police. I probably should have had a whole lot of DWIs. There were times where they would, you know, back in the 80s, they would just take you home, you know. And one time they actually went with me to the daycare to pick up my daughter and then took me home.
That was like nice of them.
That was very nice of them.
Why don't we have more of those?
That is not happening today.
No,
Thank goodness.
Nowadays, they take you to the daycare. The
Oh yeah,
daycare.
you going to the adult daycare. But I remember my 19th birthday that I was in Shreveport, and I was just a smart aleck to that police officer, and he's like, "You're going to jail tonight," and I'm like, "Whatever." I get down there, and then I hear these people in drunk tanks, and that's when I freak out. You know, they did release me that night, but I had a DWI, and so, you know, my story is a lot of dependent on other people, using other people to get to where I needed to be or what I needed. Moved to Abilene, Texas for a little while. Never saw a tumbleweed. I thought I was in the middle of Gunsmoke, Jill. I was like, what is that?
So how far is that from Dallas?
That's about 4 to 5 hours from Dallas. Let's see. It's about 4 hours.
Okay. So the reason I ask, I drive through Dallas every day, and you got signs that say Abilene, Dallas.
Yeah.
And I was, I'm thinking Abilene's right down the road. Apparently,
Oh, no.
it's further away.
It
than
actually might be
Shreveport.
about 6 hours.
Wow.
If I think about it, because it would take 8 hours to get from Abilene to Shreveport. And we're talking west. And
Yeah.
that was
The nothing.
it was the desert. When I lived there, though, to my sadness, the bars did not stay open till 2 o'clock there.
No, Texas is a little different.
Yeah. So, but I still found my people. I still found my people down there. Just because the bars closed didn't mean that there wasn't somebody's house open. So, I ended up back here, and I married my husband now of 27 years. And so by this time, I've got 2 kids, and I had my third with my now husband. And he put up with a lot for me. There was a lot of partying. I can tell you the only times I never drank or did anything was when I was pregnant. And that would last for a little while past pregnancy, but not very long. You know, and I did try to do something different. I knew that waitressing was not going to be my deal, but I would always go back to it because that's where, you know, the partiers were all the time. But worked at a bank for a brief period, worked for an insurance company, worked for a pawn shop, and ended up waiting tables again. Then I ended up at a liquor store, of course. Yeah. So that was the first inkling that I might have a problem when I worked at that liquor store. My favorite part of working there was I would set up wine tastings on the weekend. And, you know, we'd set up about 3 o'clock and pair it with some nice cheese and
Okay, so fancy.
fancy schmancy. I was the gourmet manager, Jill. And so, you know, I'd get a little bit tipsy, but I'd go home and I had a full service bar at home. I mean, I did work in a liquor store.
Right.
And so anyway, that's about, I remember being there on a Monday morning. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was craving like a beer so bad. And it was 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, and you know, when I got to a meeting, they were talking about, you know, getting the shakes and things like that. And I'm like, oh, that never happened to me. Well, that is not true. Hangovers are the shakes. And so I had to really look at some things. But I got into recovery in a roundabout way. I discovered gambling, and like I said, there are other things in my story. When alcohol wouldn't do it, there was probably some white powder, and I would do that. It was an occasional thing, but during Christmas time, we would do these huge gift baskets. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm just gonna have to push out about 3,000 baskets for Christmas. So I'd buy me a little, they call it a ball. I don't know if I need to be careful.
No,
No,
say,
you're fine.
say whatever you want to say.
So you mean an 8-ball, 3.5
Yeah,
grams?
Yes. So
I've heard of it.
yeah. So I'd buy me a little 8-ball to last through the month of December so I could push out some baskets. But one year, just so happens, I couldn't find any of it. And there was this other substance in town. Of course, I was naive to other things, and but I was hooked. I'd say, it didn't work the first time. I hated it, and it was methamphetamine. Mm-hmm. Hated it. And, but I needed to push out baskets. So let's just go ahead and try it again. Maybe I did too much or not enough. So I went ahead and did it, and I was hooked on that for a little while. And there were certain events that happened. I lost my house. My middle child went to live with his father over in Texas. So that, my usage and drinking escalated at that point. And my daughter was barely speaking to me. And so there were some things that happened. And mind you, I was gambling too. And that went on for a couple of years. We were getting back on our feet. And at this point, I wanted nothing to do with methamphetamine. I was actually staying sober. And then a lot of people moved into this little bitty house with me. And I was like, man, like I just didn't know how to handle my emotions. So I started drinking again. And with drinking came the partiers and the other party favors, and I could not say no to that other thing that I hated. And, we moved a couple of times, but I ended up losing another house and lived with my mother-in-law briefly. And you would think that was my rock bottom, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And we got in a house over in Broadmoor. And it's kind of weird now because that was the beginning of the end for me. I was heavily drinking, and then I started doing the other substance again. And, of course, I've done dragged my husband down with me. We're doing together, and it got pretty bad for a little while. And, we were losing the house, weren't paying our bills, and the youngest was out there living in Coshada with his grandpa. The oldest was not speaking to me, and I was a rage drinker, and I became a thief. Methamphetamine just brings out this criminal side to you. You will do things that you would not even imagine in yourself. And I remember falling to my knees in that living room. And I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I just can't. And within a month, I'd say, now this for me was my rock bottom. Everyone's is different. And that's when the sheriff, we were getting evicted. Of course, I stayed. That's what you do. Your electricity gets cut off. You just go put another meter in that you got from somewhere. Why not? I just have a spare meter over here just in case.
You scared of getting shocked?
I did. Well, actually, I heard this, and I'm like, oh. And then
You do that again.
I was like, maybe I shouldn't mess with that. Let me get somebody else over here to do it. But when the sheriff showed up and they put all of our furniture and stuff, we could not get out of there. And mind you, we were going right next door. We'd lost our truck. I mean, it was just bad. And we were going to have to stay with our neighbor. And I decided then, well, maybe I need to check on, this gambling thing. So, because I had been calling them over and over, and when I got through there, I did not want to be there, but also no one wanted me in their house. You didn't know I was probably going to rob all your change, and I was definitely going to drink all your liquor. I mean, but again, I did not want anything to do with methamphetamine, but I also did not know how to say no. And so I go through this treatment center, and I remember that counselor telling me, you might want to look at your drug use and your alcohol use. And I said, well, that's not what I'm here for. I'm going to need you to stick to the game. This is what we're here for. And actually, I even drank while I was there when I was getting visitors. I'm like, you better sneak me something in here. And about that time, and it was also, I'd walked off the premises of the treatment center and right into a drug-filled neighborhood. I remember it scared the crap out of me. And I was like, where are you going? No one wants you in their house. You're an alcoholic that steals. And so I went back in and they didn't catch me, but I started listening. But that 2 weeks that I missed of that, I didn't get anything. And they kept mentioning this other place, you ought to go and stay off of it. And I was like, no, but since I've been through treatment, they were like, oh, she's getting better. So they let me stay with them. And I was drinking that weekend. Mm-hmm. And before you knew it, I was gambling. But I was so miserable. And that took a couple of months. And I went back to those people at that gambling treatment center. And I was like, I really need to listen to y'all. So I went through treatment and I went ahead and went, while you were there, you went to these meetings that would talk about 12 steps and 12, know. Mm-hmm. And so I would go and I'd kind of listen, but I was such a basket of nerves that, I really was not completely through with my drinking. I didn't think that I had a problem. I didn't think that I had no control or I was powerless over anything. But I also had my husband who, I could manipulate. If you don't go buy me some booze, I will blah, blah, blah. I manipulated him very well. And like I said, I drug him into my drama. And he's one of those that can drink, use whatever, and put it down. And but he would go balls to the wall with me. And meanwhile, he's living in Coshada, and I went ahead and went through this halfway house to try to get sober. They practically had to sit on me. And I'm just like, I don't know about all this. So I'd been there for about 3-4 months, and my son started liking me again. And he's like, you need to come stay with us. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm leaving, y'all. My son needs me. And so I moved out of this halfway house and in with my son, his girlfriend, his mother, 4 dogs, 3 cats, snake.
Huh?
Yeah. Well,
like
it was
like a boa?
Like a pet snake. I don't know. It stayed in the other room, but it was chaos, and I was in for it. I was drinking that weekend, and then when someone else is, you can see that they're an alcoholic, but they're telling you need to look at your drinking. You're like, whatever, man. And anyway, I ended up renting a room from this lady, and I stuck with my Gamblers Anonymous people. And, I was trying to tell them that I went through this thing, and they were saying I was an alcoholic. What do y'all think? And they're like, oh, no, you're fine. And then they went out with me, and they were like, oh, yeah, you are definitely an alcoholic.
Bridget.
Yes. And so, my higher power sees things. I have to have big things. Like I said, I'm gambling, so I have to have a burning bush. Oh, can I see that again? And I accidentally called the director of that halfway house, and she told me who it was. Can I say the name of it?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's Oakwood Home for Women.
Yeah.
And thank God for Oakwood.
Amen.
Thank God. 50 years this year.
It
Have
is
they been around 50? Really?
50 years this year.
a beautiful nonprofit organization
I love
that helps
I mean,
women get back on their feet.
Yes, most definitely. So I called and I said, okay, I think there's a possibility that I might be an alcoholic. And the director says, oh, really? Well, do you think maybe you want to do something about it? And I said, yeah, maybe so. So I went back to Oakwood and I stayed for 14 months. I didn't breathe for probably the first 90 days. You know, and like I said, I have to have big things happen to me. I still had a problem with step one. Admitted we were powerless and could not, you know, just that our lives had become unmanageable. And I was like, I mean, I can see unmanageable, but I didn't lose everything this time. And
Forget the times before, right?
yeah, I'm past that. That was because of crystal methamphetamines, and which, by the way, I did not know that's what I was doing until this girl said, "Don't you just love it?" And I said, "Well, that's what I'm doing." She said, "What did you think you were doing?" I said, "I don't know, jacked up cocaine." And she's like, no, because I was that goody from the 80s that was like, oh, I will never do that.
Yeah, not that dirty stuff.
Oh, God, do you see those trashy people? And
Well, you know, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but here in the news lately, you know, there's a fancy schmancy, you know, American citizen is currently on trial for something he did while under the influence of crack cocaine.
Right.
And his father just happens to be the president of the United States. And I noticed, and I'm thinking, you know, hey, this thing, you know, it's not limited to anybody.
no, I mean,
So, you know, to your, I get it though. You know, you think of it as being, I think of when I think of crack cocaine, I think of like a trap house or like
Right.
a brick apartment complex where no one lives and 3 or 4 people are huddled in a corner under a mattress, and you know they're to the that's what I think of. But truth is, man, there's some
Not like that.
highfalutin folks that are, you know,
highfalutin. I mean, I did a little research into it. Like, I really, I hate the stuff, and I think it's evil on earth. And I could just get on my soapbox about it, but you know, there are more people that are on that than you would know,
Right.
and it is because you can get it all done, and I can see why. There's probably more housewives that are addicted than anything because they have small children, and you've got to get it done. You got to get to the ballpark. You got to do this and you got to do that. But I was that mother that was on it, and I couldn't even make it through an entire weekend with my son, the youngest one, at he was in Boy Scouts, and you do that camp thing out there way out in Stonewall. Couldn't sit through it. And that took a long time to forgive myself for.
Yeah.
It took a very long time, but, you know, I went through Oakwood, and I got this thing they called a sponsor, and really paid attention. I had some things happen in early sobriety that, you know, I had to have that big wow again, and I was falsely accused of some things. And my big wow was bad things can happen. You don't have to go drink over it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had a higher power, and it took me going through this to get back to who my higher power is. You know, I can remember being young. I got baptized 6 times in a year until the preacher man said, "You are saved.
Yeah.
You've been saved.
just got to make sure, you know.
Jesus is in your heart." And I'm like, I'm not real sure, because some bad stuff is still happening at home. And I felt so cleansed. It was just, you know, I mean, I guess I had that gambling, got to feel it early. So I had to look at a lot of things in life and a lot of trauma growing up. And I owe so much to Oakwood and to my higher power. I mean, I've learned I've met some wonderful, wonderful people. I don't know what I would do without this group. Are we even allowed to say AA?
You can say whatever you want to.
Yeah, we're our own podcast. We just kind of talk about our experience with whatever it is. We just,
Right.
Sure, you can say whatever you want to say.
So, I am part of this group of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't know what it was. That's the funny thing about it is, even though I would take my uncle and my mom to a place downtown called Steps.
Yeah, I remember Steps.
They'd get in trouble. And I'm like, you better get inside while I got me a big old drink sitting in my cup. I'm like, y'all got a problem. You need to go get help. Because I didn't drink until 5 o'clock every day at that time. Unless we were out camping or something like that, then it was on.
Right.
But I was in my 40s when I got here. And so I was pretty late getting here, but I got here when I did. And now it's all about helping others. And I am now on the board of Oakwood.
Awesome.
Good for you.
And I love Oakwood. And like I said, we're celebrating 50 years. We got this huge banquet coming up. But I also have been working in the recovery field for about 7 years now.
Okay.
And, this disease reaches far and wide. And, all you need is a compassionate person to listen to you and guide you to get to where you need to be. And I think they're recognizing it more and more now. It took a while. It took a while for me. My mother passed from this disease. And, like I said, it's just, and you don't want to go that way. You do not want to go with your body getting so sick from alcohol. And, there was a point in life where that was okay with me. I knew at some point that I was going to be homeless. And I just figured, I'm very crafty. So I'll just get a really big mattress box and I'm going to make it look good. I'm going to be the Martha Stewart of downtown Shreveport. Yeah. And I just cannot even look back and imagine now. Like, I really thought that that's where my life was going and I was okay with it. I had come to peace with it. But there were pebbles along the way where a higher power was going, okay, I don't know if I ever told you this, Jill, but so I like to go dumpster diving sometimes. Not really dumpster, but I call it curbside shopping. And because other people's trash is my treasure. I can fix it up, make some money. But there were other things going on in my life. But I found this backpack one time, and it had a Bible and an AA book in it. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and put it up on the shelf. That Bible, though, I was always scared to throw a Bible away, and it had a name in it. And I met that person when I went through the gambling treatment.
Wow.
And I said, your Bible is in my shed. And I was able to get it back to him.
What are the chances of that?
What are the chances? Another pebble
I've heard of that before, too. That happened before in somebody's life.
Yeah, it's like, these little small miracles. You're going this way. You don't know it yet, but this is where you're going. The first time I got out of that treatment center, I was at a bus stop. Went back to waiting tables, by the way. And I was at this bus stop, and I met this beautiful young woman who was waiting for the bus to go to work. And she was telling me how she was a balloon artist at Party City. And I was like, what is a balloon artist? Anyway, she's telling me, she's like, I'm just trying to live life day to day. And she lived at this place called Oakwood Home for Women. and how she was trying to explain to me how you work those 12 steps. And I was like, that sounds awful. And 6 months later, I was
There you are.
There I am, and that is my roommate. Like, what are the chances of that?
A balloon artist. Like you blow up balloons and make
Yes.
animals?
I'm not going to say
Yeah.
her name, but I'm going to
Giraffe.
make sure I tag you when I post this.
Okay. Okay.
But she'll know who she is. And she ended up being my roommate. And, you know, that was that first time I went to Oakwood, and I left because I wasn't done. Mm-hmm. But I remember that beautiful smile begging me not to leave and telling me, you're going to die if you leave. Now, thank goodness that didn't come true. But, you know, just those little things like that are placed in the back of your mind get you back.
Yeah.
I mean, some people call it a cult. It's a cult. We don't have a leader, so, you know, it's not. I heard somebody say that one time, and I was like, that's good. Because I have had family say, oh, you're going to go back to that cult.
Wow. Yeah.
But I stay heavily involved. I do service work. Not everyone's cut out to be in the treatment field.
It's hard.
It's hard, and it's a lot of chaos and a lot of drama. But if you see on my cup, my coffee cup, I am the chaos coordinator.
Yeah.
Come to me. But I just love everything about being sober now. It's really cool. I bought a house on my own without having to use anyone. Isn't that amazing?
That's awesome.
My husband of 27 years, we started working to get back. Like I said, he was in Coshada. We were apart for a few years. And I'm able to give back to him. He's really sick now. And, but I have strength in numbers now where I didn't have that before. My friends before were, you know, I thought I was going to be a cool dealer in Shreveport for a little while.
Yeah.
That was my aspiration. You know, I've been around some people that I were friends with for a very long time, and it's just different now. I like peace. I like true love and tolerance of each other. I have had some family members go, oh, they don't really know you like we know you.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, but they do, because they have seen me from getting sober to now and know the bad side of Bridget and the good side.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. I stick around with a great group of women,
Yeah, you do.
and I love my tribe.
Yeah.
I love them. And I'm going to tell you, you know, the halfway house I went through is not for everyone, but I needed a lot of structure. I needed to be rewired. Mm-hmm. I needed to know that I was not in control of anything, and not everything is manipulated and will go my way. I had gotten myself in some trouble. Remember I told you about that, where I plugged that meter in?
Yes.
Had an $800 charge for that.
Woo.
Had about $2,000 in hot checks at the boats. And I learned that I had to pay things back on my own.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was it was amazing. I didn't like it, though. I was
No,
like,
no one likes financial events.
No.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to pay this back, but I would have all this money. But when
Right.
you know, I mean, and I had my own little studio apartment briefly, because then it became a point where I was trying to run away from everybody, like, oh, I'm free. Well, no, you still have responsibilities. You still have children. And, you know, at one point, my daughter was not speaking to me. And I would not blame her, you know, but we're still working on a relationship, but we do talk.
Good.
And love my favorite humans on earth. One is actually playing some baseball right now. And I hope he gets to hear this, because I am watching, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's what that was.
Yes,
Oh, I used to do that with my nephew.
Yeah. I love Game Changer. Yeah. It has changed the game. So, but that's my story is that, I started drinking real early and trying to live life too early. But I have the best children in the world. This disease is in our DNA. So, but I just try to be the best person I can be today.
Yeah.
And help the next suffering alcoholic or whoever, I love it,
Do you, how many people do you sponsor? Do you sponsor?
I do. I have 5 ladies that I sponsor.
That's pretty good.
Every one of them drive me crazy.
And you've been
Just kidding. I love you guys.
You're coming up on 11 years.
I'm coming up on, I have 11.
You have 11. You're coming up on 12 years.
Yeah. Well, that's 9 months ways. Yeah.
Well, 2013 was about whenever I thought I figured everything out, so I quit paying attention to people that came in,
Oh.
I know. It just
Man, you missed the best crowd. We're the 2013 group.
I got a lot of friends. Believe it or not, I remember people come in 2013. I've been there since 11,
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been around a while. But now I look back on them and think, man, they've been sober that long. They've been sober almost 12 years. What is,
Yeah, it's wild.
I know.
But some of them, I just couldn't believe it. I still can't believe some of them that I still think in my head as newcomers. They've been around over a decade.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, my sponsor is about to celebrate 30 years. If I'm wrong, forgive me. Y'all know I'm bad with dates, but I'm pretty sure she's visiting to celebrate 30 years.
That's
Now,
amazing.
Can you tell who your sponsor is?
I don't know, can I?
That's up to you and them. We don't mind. We take anything we can
I don't
get.
think Ellen would mind at all.
Ellen.
Ellen, you're a rock star.
She really is.
Yes, she is.
How do I know Ellen?
I don't know if you do.
I think I know an Ellen that's been around forever.
I mean, there's just absolutely no telling.
Yeah, I know. You see these crowds, and then sometimes I get my towns mixed up.
Yeah,
Like where I knew somebody.
Well,
at
and
too.
sometimes they come over to different meetings, and we do the same. So, and intergroups and all kinds of stuff.
So I was mentioning to Matt this morning. Matt's been around for a while. 6 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
mentioning a guy's name to him, and Matt never heard of him. And that guy's at the Koala Club every day. Every morning at 9 o'clock.
So how long do you have, Jill?
I have 14 years.
14. So you're 2012 or 2010.
Yes.
And how long do you have?
I have 12.
12.
In 2 weeks, God willing, I will have 13.
Congratulations.
June 21st, 2011 is my sobriety date.
Wow. So let me ask y'all something. There was something that was said to me when I had about 2-3 years. And she said, whatever year you have, that's usually the step that you're on, that is more alive for you during that year. So I've got 11, and that's about meditation and prayer. And I find myself that I am better about going into prayer before I react. It still has taken me a long time to get back to a higher power and not putting all of that in a box. But I remember at my 6th year constantly working on them character defects,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, they were just alive.
Yeah.
And they're like, you need to work on this. You might need to work on this. And do y'all find that true?
I've never even heard of that.
Well, actually, Jill's 14 years?
Yeah.
So she's resting this year after that year of 13 stepping.
Yeah.
She had to take a break for a year.
So I think that it just kind of starts back over.
It does.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would technically be on the 3rd step,
Okay.
And
Right?
I can see that, though. Jill would be on the second step.
the 2nd.
Yeah. Yeah, like 14 on a clock would be 2 o'clock. She would be on the 2nd step. And,
Okay.
and I would be starting my 1st step again. That's correct.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
have never heard that.
But if you think about it collectively and look at things, though, I can see that.
I mean, it's not a conscience thing. It's just like, but when she told me that, and this person has a lot of time, and I was like, huh, You know, like I said, I had about 2 or 3 years, and I had a big struggle with step 3.
Man,
Yeah.
that was step 2
Yeah.
and 3 were insane to me.
And I think she was celebrating something like 20 years at the time. And I said, so where does that put you? And she told me, and I was like, oh, wow. And so I just always think about that around my birthday. I'm like,
Okay.
where are we going to be at today? Let's just wait and see.
Yeah.
And so I do find myself like I need my alone time. And the director of Oakwood, she used to love to say this. We'd ask her something. She'd go, I need to meditate on that. Mm-hmm. So I say that a lot now. I'm like, you know what? Let me meditate on that and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Let me pray about it. Let me sleep
Yeah.
on it. All of that.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I just, I have to look for my little miracles because I can get complacent. Mm-hmm. It's like, but I love being sober.
I do too.
Pretty cool, ain't it?
It really is. Like, I cannot.
Isn't it weird now that you look back on your old life and you're like, I can't believe that was me?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I look back and it's like, that is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can honestly say recovery or sobriety, it's something I just don't take for granted. I still have a hard time believing I got 90 days.
Yeah.
To me, that was just a huge
Oh my
deal.
gosh,
to
it was
go
so
all those
big.
years.
I
and
remember
only,
thinking and crying, I will never have that. Seeing girls graduate, from the treatment at 90 days. And I was like, oh, no, that will never be me.
Well, and here we are.
I know. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And
Thank God.
the fact we get to just pass it along.
Yeah. And that's what we do here at, the garage and the brainstorm is
Yeah, that's I mean, some of our newer listeners who hadn't listened to all the episodes yet, the reason we're called that is because there is no in this with the three of us, there is no grouch and brainstorm. We're just we don't really have an opinion on anything. We just kind of tell our experience. This has been our experience with this, and this has been our experience with that. Kind of like drama we talked about earlier. This is just my experience with drama. What happens when it comes along? What do I see out there? And then what I really wanted to do whenever we did all this is to make the newcomer understand we ain't no different than y'all. We are, and then so they might hear something and say, oh, well, I was wondering about that. Kind of like we've talked about indirectly no one being in charge in our last episode and in this one, in AA. And, the first thing anybody does with a slip, especially when they walk in the room and who's in charge, like nobody. Nobody's in charge.
they're like,
so I can sign my own slip. Oh, that's between you and a judge, man. I don't know.
Right?
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, we're here, and if you don't like the meeting you walk into, go to another one.
Yeah.
yep.
And come sit by me. My name is Bridget, and that's what I'm here for.
So we're all here for.
Sit by Jill. She's right there on the front row every time.
Yeah, sit by Jill.
Yeah, come sit next to me.
Sit in between us. You'll have a really good time then.
I love when I see you at a meeting. I mean, like, every time I see you, we lock eyes from across the room and make
like,
some weird face.
Hey, boo, hey. We do. We're kind of bizarre.
Yes,
but,
yes. And then occasionally, catch eyes again. We're both like,
I know. I love you. I miss seeing you.
I know. Well, the move, man.
Yeah.
I just don't get too many Shreveport meetings.
I remember when I moved to, or whenever I first came to AA, I used to wonder why everybody always left a space between each other.
Uh-huh.
There's always an empty chair in the middle of everybody. It's gonna think, why do they do that? Of course, as the room fills up, that changes. But I was just always curious about it.
Well, because
Personal space.
yeah, and we're some nervous people when we get here.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
wow.
that's
Gosh, when we get here, I'd like to say that majority of us are still nervous. If you go in a meeting and you look at people's feet, I will guarantee you that like 3/4 of that room, their feet will be going, just like steadily,
Right.
just restless.
Right.
that knee just
Yes.
jumping up and down.
Y'all ever heard of that song Heathens?
No.
By yeah.
If you listen to the words of that song, it sounds like us in these rooms.
Who sings it?
Hang on, I can look
Is it a rock
It's like-
song,
it-
a country song?
It's kind of a pop song. It's Heathens by, like, I don't know. What's the name of that?
I'm so bad with names.
They also sang, I don't remember the name of that song. What is the name of that? Jill, what is that sound that always goes off about this time?
Oh, that's the lunch.
Y'all working them on Sundays out there too, huh? You can grab one of them, come kill your
I was
snake,
going to
Jill.
ask them to turn that off on the weekend.
21 Pilots.
Yeah,
That sound
that's it.
right?
That's
Yeah,
it.
21
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen to the words of that song. That it sounds like us sitting in these rooms. I have researched it, and it's not. But I'm like, that is a recovery song. Those people are in recovery.
And then you're like,
Well, you do notice in recovery through the years that, like, the songs first, craziness, but like Kenny Chesney and That's Why I'm Here,
Yeah.
didn't you?
and he has another one called Better Boat.
Yes,
Build a Better Boat.
I remember
talking
when you
about-
sent that to me. A long
And
time
then and the good stuff talks about alcohol and how it messed up the guy's life. So there's 3 just by one artist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we have Aerosmith has a song called Amazing. Mm-hmm.
Is that about recovery?
If you listen to the lyrics, it sounds like it.
The Red Hot Chili Peppers will, have stuff like that mentioned in their music.
Give it away
Yep.
now, because you can't
Exactly.
Hey.
you can't keep
Exactly.
Give it away.
That's a good song. Yeah, they just the picture of recovery right there.
Yep.
But there you start to hear that kind of stuff. I used to think maybe it was in my head, and I was just kind of working that into everything. Because but there are some really good recovery songs out there.
There are.
And recovery shows. Randy T actually got me whenever I was very first sober. He asked me if I'd watched a show called Days of Wine and Roses. And so I haven't, and it's a movie with, it's back in, I have it actually now, it's downloaded on my Apple iTunes or my movies in my Apple page. But it's about a lady who her husband actually gets her started, but he's not an alcoholic. They gets her started when they're dating. And he seems to be the one who really drinks in the beginning of the movie, right? And then she starts drinking.
Okay, say no more. You're going to ruin it.
And then, boom, whole movie.
Oh.
After that. But it's a good show. Days of Wine and Roses. And then,
Okay.
of course, Leaving Las Vegas, which the only person I've ever seen drink like I drank is Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. I've never met or seen anyone that drank as much as me.
Yeah.
And
Well, my show was Mom.
Mom?
Y'all never
I
watched
have
Mom?
I've heard
Mom?
of
Mom. It has, oh my gosh.
Never even heard of it.
Oh gosh, it's all about being, it's all about us. They actually go to meetings and
It's a
it's a
series?
It's a series. It's a mother and a daughter that are in recovery. I'm trying to think of that woman's name. But you've got to watch Mom. I mean, it went on for a couple years. I don't know how you missed that.
There's really no telling.
I mean, great show. Of course, my husband watched it, and he's like, are y'all really like that? And I'm like, yeah, we're pretty crazy. But I mean, it's love and tolerance, and we accept that in each other. Like
Yeah.
we've already been through hell. So
Yes, we have.
So like we understand each other. That's why I just can't help but giggle when someone that's never been here says they don't know you like we do. And I'm like, yeah, I've pretty much put it all out there.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs, and before I ever tell my story, I always ask that if one person hears my story, then I've done my job.
Exactly. And that's how I feel with what I do as a, career. If someone, just one person gets this message, that I've done my job.
And that's really what I like about the show, is the whole point of them doing the show. One of these days I'll go away. I won't I won't be doing this no more. Someone hopefully will take this microphone and take it further into other people who will just get the message that we're no different than you. We just have sat in these rooms long enough to have a little experience, and we get older.
Yeah.
I'm 38 years old back in, I don't know, 1930. That was about how old Bill was when he got sober. He was 37 or 38. And you look at these these pictures, you know, and they all wore suits all the time.
Right.
They were like grown ass men at 38 years old. You know, I wasn't. I never been accused of being a grown man, right? But these guys were like fully mature, and you know, and of course, I don't know what life expectancy was.
Always in a business suit. I could imagine you like business suiting it up every day.
No, I can't imagine me either. I can't imagine doing that. Yeah,
You wore a business suit?
Bill did.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
back in the 30s.
I don't really know.
I think my favorite part of that is when they packed up on the motorcycle
Yep.
and put the tent. They were living in a tent for a little while. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sounds like me. That was my box.
They drove around up and down the side of the United States, you know, from New York, or actually it was just that whole eastern seaboard over there, and covered. I mean, I just can't imagine the amount of love. You know, first off, Lois had to have a lot,
Right?
Because the stuff she put up with him from the drinking, and then on top of that, she's going to run off and ride in a sidecar of a motorcycle or the back seat of a motorcycle, and you know, just a lot. You know,
I wonder if he was wearing a business suit.
I don't know. He probably had them little funky goggles and a leather helmet.
Right?
You know, back in the day, they had all that, though.
So, yeah. I mean, my husband was Lois. Basically, it just flipped. But, you know, back then, they didn't think, I guess, women had huge problems.
Yeah.
Well, that seems to be like just about 50-50, you know? So, it is what I guess that's why if you read Two Wives, like the first two paragraphs talk about women alcoholics, and then the rest of it is just how to handle your man in quotes, right?
Right.
You know, because that is one of the chapters of the big book.
I can't stand that
It's
chapter.
kind of archaic.
Yes. I'm not gonna lie. That's just like
But there are things in there to be learned.
there. Of course,
The
I'm
family
not saying
after, if you skip past the part, you know, that, you know, I didn't like any of the big book when I got there. And I refused to read We Agnostics, which we're going to start on We Agnostics on our next recording. We're going to talk a little bit about We Agnostics, maybe cover a few high points in that chapter. But I didn't want to read it because I had a higher power. I didn't need anybody to tell me about it. I wasn't agnostic. It didn't apply to me. Mm-hmm. Just take me to the chapter that there is a solution. Let me get that solution. Go home and work on it, and I'll be done. You know, and come to find out that seems to be one of the most helpful chapters in the entire book.
Yeah, I really like that chapter.
Yeah, I do too. And it really helps you if you start sponsoring people. You know, they're like, oh, no. Like me, when I got here, I could not go to a higher power, especially one named God, because I've done too much. He is never going to forgive me. You know, that's where I was at. I was not going to go pray. I had a lot of anger at God. Look what you've done to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Poor fella. Him and the devil get a lot of blame.
Yeah.
And parents.
Yes. Yeah.
Talked about that before on the show with parents. So, well, anything we need to add? Anything we missed?
No, thank y'all for having me.
Bridget, thank you.
I have a disclaimer, though. If my sponsor gets on to me for saying her name out loud, I love you. Please forgive me.
So this episode, what is today's date?
The 8th.
Today?
The
Today is the 9th.
Today is the 9th. So this episode will actually air on is this June? Golly, on the 16th. It'll air on the 16th.
Okay.
So you be a week from today, be listening for it, and it'll come out and it'll air. And then the following week, we will have hopefully we will have some We Agnostics. You know, unless someone emails me or calls me about a topic they want to hear. And of course, then we'll move on with that. So, all right. Well, Jill, anything you need to add?
Nope, I believe that's it. Bridget, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
y'all.
Loved having you. And guys, we have been at Rule 62 Studios here in sunny Bossier City, Louisiana. And this has been The Grouch and the Brainstorm.